Ayo, we see y'all's bullshit. So here's something fascinating. People in my mentions are calling me racist for saying Tallarico is a better candidate than Crockett. If you think a factual critique of a black candidate is racist, then you're asking me to grant special privileges, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he says he had a factual critique and that Tallarico is a better candidate. So let's go through. By the way, he's coming to the defense of this guy who says Jasmine Crockett was too defined. I have no idea what's factual about it. I don't even know what that phrase means. And he says that it's a correct opinion. These people always want to pretend as if they're the factual ones and you're the one who doesn't know what they're talking about because they're gaslighters and manipulators. But let's keep going. He also says Crockett has no shot at winning Texas, has nothing to do with race, everything to do with how she's positioned her brand on a political spectrum. A Democrat would only have a chance at winning Texas if they were extremely moderate. Keep in mind that he said extremely moderate. Here's one of the replies in which they're saying, arguing a moderate would win when Tallarico has the far more progressive platform. Now, that's what people have been saying about Tallarico, but let's go check it out. This is Tallarico's official website. Honestly, I can't find much of his policy positions on this website, but I'm just trying to figure out where the moderate is because he'll say things like, I've led the fight against billionaire mega donors that have rigged the system against working families. Like, is that a moderate position? Is that what moderates say? I don't know, maybe. Same thing, they're defunding our schools, gutting our healthcare, cutting taxes for themselves and their rich friends. Not a policy position, but moderates tend to say that. Apparently, Clark Lawson thinks that that's what moderates say. I tried finding something about Tallarico's positions, but it's hard to find. But let's just look at some. Voter registration. Do you support government issue photo identification? He says no. I'm sure the Republicans will position that as a moderate position. Do you support automatic voter registration? He says yes. I'm sure the Republicans will position that as a moderate position. Do you support mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug offenders? He says no. I'm sure the Republicans will position that as a moderate position. Do you support reducing government regulations in the private sector? He says no. Do you support requiring welfare applicants to pass a drug test in order to receive benefits? Apparently he says no. Should immigrants unlawfully present in the United States graduate from Texas high schools and be eligible for in-state tuition at public universities? He says yes. Again, I'm sure that's a moderate position the Republicans are gonna love. Medicaid expansion. Supports people's right to die through euthanasia. He supports businesses providing paid medical leave during public health crises. I'm sure the Republicans will say that's moderate. He wants to close the pay gap. He wants to include gender identity and anti-discrimination laws. So again, I'm sure these are all moderate positions that Clark Lawson apparently thinks Tallarico has that makes him the better candidate than Jasmine Crockett. Here's my favorite one. Y'all are the reason no one cares about racism anymore. You've devalued the word. It holds no moral weight. You never cared about racism, Clark. If you're a black person who has existed in black skin in this country, we've seen white racists say that exact same thing. It is the desire to turn yourselves into perpetual white victims and perpetual white victimhood in order to weaponize that against black people who are indeed the victims of racism. Your racism, in fact, Clark. They love telling us that we're the reason y'all don't care about us. Us talking about racism, calling it out, calling out the patterns is a problem for them, and doing so makes them not care about racism anymore. Do you see how that works? Now, if you want to know why we call people like Clark racist, it's because he's logically inconsistent. He, on the one hand, says that these guys have a correct opinion about Jasmine Crockett when they say that she's too defined, but gives no definition as to what that actually means. Then he says that the only way a Democrat can win Texas is if they're moderate, and that Tallarico is the better candidate than Crockett because she's apparently not moderate, and presumably Tallarico is. But then when we actually look at Tallarico's positions, the ones that I've been able to find, and even some of his own wording, that is not indicative of a moderate candidate, Clark. Y'all constantly try to hide your racism behind legitimate stuff, but it's painfully obvious you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. And you're taking logically inconsistent stances, which tells us that you're bullshitting, Clark. And when we spot your bullshit, then you want to get mad about it. But this is why we call you racist. You don't have consistent positions, and you often engage in hypocrisy in which you want to criticize the black candidate and uphold the white one.